The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms.
Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I am excited to speak with Byron Ballard. Byron is a folklorist, author, and teacher. She has been a featured speaker at several conferences and festivals, including Sacred Space Conference, Pagan Spirit Gathering, Starwood, Hexfest, and many more. She is the senior priestess and co-founder of the Mother Grove Goddess Temple and the Coalition of Earth Religions. She podcasts about Appalachian folkways on the Weird Mountain Gals podcast. She's written 4 books on mountain folk magic. The first book was Stobes and Ditchwater, and her most recent book in 2025 is called A Feral Church, A Guided Journey to Find Magic, Kinship, and the Goddess from Llewellyn Books. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome, Byron.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely welcome that is.
Yeah, so excited. So happy that you're here today.
Oh, I am glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy week.
How's your day going?
My day is going okay. I went with my husband to pick out a new tuxedo shirt because we are going to a wedding next weekend, and that was kind of fun.
Oh, good. I hope you found one. Or
yes,
you found
too.
one. We have a lot to unpack here, and I'm really so excited to chat with you. So are you ready to go?
Ready.
Okay, let's get rolling here. As I always start out with my podcast, I ask, how did your spiritual journey with the goddess begin? And what did that look like for you?
I don't know if it's because I grew up in a pretty matriarchal family or if because I'm a 70s era feminist, but I have never seen the divine in male form. And so it has never made any sense to me. And honestly, I've tried because when I was little, my mother's family are Methodists, and I really, really wanted to see Jesus and God and all those cool people that they had, but I just never could see them. I only ever thought of the goddess as the world around me, as the soil and the trees and the water and the wind and the leaves. And sometimes she also was anthropomorphic. So I'm an animist really at heart. But I also I'm a hard polytheist. So the female divine, the goddess for me is very imminent and very real.
Yeah. Were you a young witchling running out in the fields or the forest?
Well, I grew up in the country. I grew up in the western part of this county, and I spent much of my days outside running the mountain, and we had a small orchard, so I would be there amongst the apples and playing with crawdads and salamanders and all of that. And then when I was a little older, I had a pony and then horses. So I was always outside, and that's where I've always felt the divine most strongly. I tell people often, they will say, well, how many pagans are there in Western North Carolina? And I'll go, people who self-identify with that word, maybe 1,000, maybe a few more. But those people who say, I don't go to church, But on Sunday, I hike the Appalachian Trail or I go up on the Parkway, and that's where I meet God. Well,
Mm-hmm.
those people are pagans, and often, whether they self-identify that way or not, they love Mother Nature. They love the goddess, and her form is Gaia.
Yeah. Was there anybody in your family that was spiritual or magical that might have influenced you?
Well, no, I come from a family, like I said, my mother's family are Methodists, but my grandmother and several of my cousins had these abilities that we assume are passed down through the Scots-Irish lineage that I carry. Um, the ability to read omens, um, dreams that come true. They used to be called prophetic dreams, and now we refer to them as precognitive dreams.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to see and to interact with spirits of various kinds. And they never saw that particularly as a religion, because their religion was that they were Methodists. But
Yeah.
these abilities were deeply part of the culture that I grew up in.
Yes. Let's talk about Appalachia. Why do you think where you live in Appalachia is so conducive to folk magic? And why is it so spiritually alive and inspirational for you?
Well, these are some of the oldest mountains in the world, and two of the oldest rivers in the world flow through these mountains. So we're talking about a land that is ancient, ancient beyond measure. In fact,
Mm.
we understand that the French Broad River, which was one of the rivers that flooded 11 months ago, that the French Broad River is in fact older than the Appalachian Mountains. So there is a level of energy here that is both deep and broad, and that often manifests in deep and broad spirituality, whether that is a Christian spirituality, and I think now, of course, of the folks in the far reaches of the mountains who do things like snake handling,
Hmm.
and also that there are so many different kinds of religions here, because spirituality is very close. It is deep and broad, but it also permeates almost everything here.
Do you think it's also because it's a little bit isolated?
And was for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Less less isolated now
Yeah.
that we're being gentrified by people from all over the country.
Is that true? Yeah.
Mm, yeah, but that was part of that. The isolation certainly was part of it.
Uh,
We are interlocking cultures here that have learned from each other and and often tormented each other.
Mm-hmm. And
But
what are those
we're
cultures? Are they Indigenous and African and Scotch Irish?
all of that, and German and Welsh.
Oh, right.
Lots of different kinds of folks are in the Southern Highlands. Now, Appalachia is a very big region. It's a long, long range of mountains that start in Georgia and end up
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. So there are a lot of different cultures throughout that range, and they often have little or nothing to do with each other. So the people who settled here are different than the people who settled in the middle part of the Appalachian Range,
Oh,
and
right.
certainly and different from the people who settled the northern parts of the range. Um, but we are all Appalachian in
Yeah.
one form or another. But I live in the southern highlands of Appalachia.
Okay. How did you become connected with the power of words and writing?
Well, there are people who will tell you it's because my name is Byron, but I think
The poet.
really, really, it's just because I grew up in a family of readers,
Yeah.
and we were encouraged to read everything we could get our hands on. And I don't remember my mother or my grandmother ever forbidding me a book, except one. When I was 10, I think, the my grandmother and my mother and aunts and cousins, they would read a book and then pass it around through the family. And they were all reading Rosemary's Baby at one point when I was about 10, I think. And I said, "Oh, I want to read that one next." And they all categorically said, "Absolutely not." But it's the only book they ever denied me. I read voraciously. Um, I read Tolkien when I was 9, I think.
Yeah.
So always been a good reader, and I think that's what makes a writer actually is somebody who
Yeah.
loves words and loves to read. It's very helpful
Hmm.
when people ask me how they want to be a writer. Oh, I'd love to be a writer. What do you do? And of course, the first thing I say is, well, you write. You just put pen to paper or fingertips to console or whatever, and you put words down, and that's how you write. But if you're asking how you write, well, that's a whole different thing. And I tell people if you can avoid writing, do it because it can be fun. And certainly I love my afternoons when I have, oh gosh, I've got 4 whole hours to write. That sounds wonderful. I
Yeah.
love those, but the other part of that is that if you want to be published, you are going to have a good editor, not a slapdash editor, and you're going to have to make a relationship probably with a publishing house unless you self-publish. And there used to be a great stigma about that, but no more for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
tell
the
us a little bit about your new book, oh, I'm sorry,
well,
A Feral Church, A Guided Journey to Find Magic, Kinship, and the Goddess. And what inspired you to write it?
oh gosh, the death of Carol Christ.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was at a festival in Southern Ohio when I read that she had died, and she had been sick for a while, so that wasn't a big surprise. I never met her. She was never officially my teacher, but her work was a great inspiration for me when I was coming out of a general sort of animist goddess place and I needed some hard information and some history. And she was wonderful. And on the way back from that festival, and for me that's about a 6.5, 7 hour drive, I just kept thinking it's time for some new books of goddess spirituality. We haven't had those really
Mm-hmm.
since those halcyon days of the early 2000s and the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept wondering, well, why, who could do that? What writers do I know would be willing to do that? And finally I went, well, I could do it. I'm a lifelong I'm a lifelong goddess worshiper, and I'm one of the founders of a goddess temple. So yeah,
Yeah. And you're the
I think
senior priestess of the Mother
yeah.
Grove Goddess Temple.
That's
And
correct.
yeah.
That's correct. So it seemed perfectly logical that I should tackle that. And so I did. And that's what it's about. But it's also about people learning to step outside of domesticity and find the goddess wherever she is or wherever they are. We we tend to, and I have some big objections to goddess as your sex partner, which is what a lot of modern paganism seems to promote. That she's, big, she's busty and has a narrow waist and slim arms, and it doesn't work for me that way.
I've never heard
For
that, but wow. Okay.
well, have you seen any statues of goddess recently? They
No,
all
but
look like they
I see a
all
lot
look like
I
that.
see a lot of images with women models like in evening gowns like standing in the middle of
Right.
the forest.
Exactly. The wild women of the forest in their Dior gowns.
Right.
So, so I wanted goddess slash goddesses, she slash them, to be as accessible in as many roles and dimensions as she could be.
Yeah, and so I've been reading your journeys, your guided journeys, which are wonderful, by the way, and
Oh, thank
really,
you.
yeah, they I like them because they're different. They don't talk about or you don't meet the usual goddess archetypes. You're meeting like animist, anthropomorphic beings and really kind of interesting ones too, like in the desert and in the bayou and in under the ice you're meeting like fish, with women's faces and it's just kind of really and gins and it's really cool. I was just really it struck me that these were also faces of the goddess but different types of beings. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. In fact, I'll tell you that when I was trying to decide how to write this book, I write nonfiction. This is my 8th book of nonfiction. So I tend to have a general idea of what I want to write about, and then I'll start playing with the idea of chapters, and then I'll create a table of contents. I'm pretty straightforward about it all. With this book, and the original subtitle of the book was Finding Goddess in the Wilderness. And it was the wilderness, the actual physical wilderness, but also the wilderness of human civilization and the wilderness inside our own hearts.
Right.
So what I did, and it's going to sound crazy, Bridget, I know, because I've said it more times than once, I would do a deep meditation, and preparing for that meditation, I would think to myself, what do I want to cover? What do I want to learn? Where do I want to set the meditation? And then I would do a journey to that place, and I would live the meditation. Then I would cease the meditation and then write up what happened. And that's how I wrote the book.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 chapters, and then I think the last chapter, are all kind of getting people ready for what this adventure is going to be. But yeah, that's how I did it. I dreamed it all up, and I've never written anything like that. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very imaginative. I love some of these just these spiritual beings. It takes you really, like you said, out into the wild, away from civilization, and makes you think, there are other beings out there if we really look or listen. And sometimes, like just me personally, I have a very broad and interesting fantasy life in my dreams. And so some of these spiritual beings have kind of showed up in my dreams here and there after I read this book.
That's great. Well, I was being interviewed by somebody a few weeks ago, and she said, so are you going to try to have this made into a movie? And I went, what? And she said, no, it's incredibly visual.
Yes,
and I think you ought to figure out how to do that, how to make it into a movie. Well, that's not what I do. So if anybody who's listening to you right now would like to talk to me about making that into a movie, I would love that, but that's not what I do.
Yeah, it's very visual. I love the imagery. And it's it's very, very intriguing. I love this book. So let's talk a little bit more about your role as a senior priestess. I was just curious, like, what is your role as the senior priestess there at the Mother Grove Goddess Temple entail? Like, is it community outreach? Is it sabbats? It's leading, community?
It's all of that, and baking soda bread, and mopping up water, and painting the chapel, and making sure we have good insurance. It's all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I love that you're doing that, and of course, this book is amazing. And I was just curious, as part of any rituals, do you read these meditations or include them in your rituals?
No, I haven't so far. We do public rituals for the 8 holy days on the wheel, and most years we also do a 9th ritual for Earth Day to kind of tie that into the Beltane season.
Nice.
But we do lots of dancing and chanting and singing. We do those kind of rituals.
Yeah. Wonderful. And how long have you been doing that with this circle?
Mother Grove is almost 19 years old.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
We've been around a long time.
Congratulations. That's cool. I mean, it's hard to run a circle and keep it going. It can be challenging. But
well, it's not really a circle. It's a church.
Church, yeah.
So we're a 501c3 church, and we do all those things that churches do. Right now, we are renovating our space, so we are not doing classes or workshops or any of that. But we will get back to that once the painting and chair buying and all that is done. But we do all the things that any church would do, and I do interfaith work. I won't say we do that, but I personally do a lot of interfaith work, because I think it's important that people understand that we take our religion as seriously as they do.
Yeah.
and that we do the things that they do. And we were really blessed and very fortunate during the natural disaster last year of Helene
Mm-hmm.
that we worked with all kinds of groups of people to get supplies out into the places most deeply affected by the disaster. And that, I mean, Christian, Jewish, all that, we all worked together to make sure people had water and heat and shelter.
Oh, that's great. That's not often do I hear about goddess temples or churches that come together for the community. I know that goddess temples they do the rituals and the events, but they don't do a lot of outreach, community outreach. So it's refreshing to hear.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And it opened doors for us with some people who might have been otherwise suspicious. But they
Yeah.
were like, "Oh yeah, the." In fact, there we are in a an older building, and upstairs from us, there's a lady who does mani pedis, and I think her daughter does massage. And when we were getting a lot of supplies through the temple, she would bring people from her studio who said, I don't have any water, I don't have any heat, that she would bring them down to us, and she referred to us as the Mother Goose store. And she said, you gotta come down to the Mother Goose store. They have everything. They'll get you fixed up. And we would send them away with water, food, fuel if they needed that, and a hug and a cup of tea or a cup of coffee to remind them that
Oh,
we're all pulling together and we're going to be
yeah.
okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I was just curious, do you weave any Appalachian folk magic into your goddess temple rituals or events?
Sometimes I do, especially around harvest time. I like to remind people that their ancestors grew all of their food and they might want to consider doing some of that too. And we talk about how we preserve food in Appalachia, and that's a good thing to learn too. I,
Hmm.
I, I do a lot of ancestor work, and
Oh,
I want to encourage people always to listen to their ancestors, to understand that their grandparents and their great grandparents and all the way back, that their lives were harder than our lives. And I know our lives feel very, very hard right now, but our ancestors had much harder lives and they have wisdom for us.
hmm. Is there any way that we can tap into that or connect with our ancestors on kind of a daily basis when we're so busy?
Um, Prayer and meditation, and plus we need to slow down. We're
Mm.
just too damn busy, frankly.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who use their busyness as status, and that's killing us. It's killing all of us. So
Hmm.
finding ways to slow down, to step back are really important, especially for women.
Yeah. Speaking of busyness, do you have any upcoming plans for the future? Like new books or events or classes or workshops?
Yeah, I am working on a book right now. I'm doing it in a more traditional way, no meditations into underwater layers. Um, it's a book on death, dying, end of life in primarily in the Appalachian and Southern traditions.
Oh, that's
And
so
that's
interesting. That is a
it,
much needed book.
I think so. And there's going to be a
Yeah.
whole section in it, maybe the section I'm most excited about, of funeral food. Because in the South, we are big on food all the time, but certainly for funerals. And I want to introduce that to people. So there'll be a whole chapter that is nothing but recipes for funeral
Mm.
food. And that'll be fun.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fabulous. And do you talk about alternative methods of funeral and
Oh
burial?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool. That's great. Yeah, I think we need more of that to talk about death and dying and how to approach it from different, different angles and different ways that are meaningful for us.
And less frightening.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, lastly, what's your website or social media that listeners can find more about you and your books and your podcasts and all your magical offerings?
Well, they can find me at myvillagewitch.com. I am really on Facebook too much. I have an Instagram account. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't post much there. And that's where they can reach me, all those places. They can find me if they're in Asheville. They can find me at Asheville Raven and Crone, which is where I read tarot on Tuesdays most weeks.
Is that a bookstore?
It is a metaphysical store.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, wonderful. So, lastly, Byron is going to give us a short guided goddess meditation or visualization. So, all right. So take it away, Byron.
Take a nice deep breath with me. Nice, deep, cleansing breath. Now I want you to imagine that underneath your bottom are some big soft thighs, and you are sitting literally in the lap of the goddess. And you have had some hard months, and you've had some scary months, and life has not been gentle with you. And so she is holding you in her big arms, and you are facing her. You are looking into her face, and if you need to, you are crying on her shoulder. And she's holding you gently. She's letting you get it all out. And at some point, she's going to pick up the edge of her apron, and she's going to blow your little snotty nose. And then she grabs your shoulders and turns you out to look at the world, to see the work that is in front of you. Because now you have processed your own grief and your own fear and anxiety, and you are ready to take on the work that is your work, that is your heart work. And breathe, and breathe. And she will allow you to sit and contemplate for a good amount of time. But there will come a point where, comfy though she is going to put the flat of her hand against the flat of your back and push you off her lap and say, get to work. Love ya. Love ya. Get to work. Deep breath. And so that's where we are right now. We have a place that is comfort. We have a place where we can process. But we have to always remember that she is the root and the foundation of all of us. And from that, we do the work that we are called to do. And when we are called to do it, we are to face it with the strength of Boudica and the ferocity of Kali and the gentleness of the Blessed Virgin and the good humor of Balbo. And that, for us, is the way we move forward in these sometimes dark and often perilous times. And so may the goddess bless all of you. May the goddesses bless all of you with all that they have to teach you, and that they may hold you when you need to be held and remind you to get busy when you need that too. Blessed be.
Oh, blessed be. That was beautiful, Byron. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show today and inspiring us with goddess energy and to connect with the divine feminine and our wild spirits within us, and for teaching us about Appalachian folk magic. So blessed be. Thank you so much.
And to you, thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, and
Yeah, you too.
much luck for your success in the future with your new book. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. Thank you. 2 years. It'll take 2 years.
Yeah. All right. And thank you to our listeners today for joining us. Blessed be. Okay. Signing off. Bye-bye.